The weather's getting colder, but that doesn't mean that our gardens have to suffer. Ed Sourdiffe is a master gardener, and he's here to tell us how we can extend our gardening season. Ed, it's always a pleasure.
Well, good to see you again, Seth.
I love these segments on Wednesdays. It's so much fun. And I get to get my hands a little dirty. So the weather is getting colder. It seems like every day it's a little bit colder, and our plants are going to die.
Well, yeah, but you put so much effort into your garden. Like we grew these seeds in the spring to turn them into these marigolds, and you have all this work. And New England has such a long, hard winter that you really want to extend your season as much as you can. So a good way of doing that is don't let those first few frosts get your garden, because we're going to have, after your first killing frost, you have Indian summer is what they call it. That's where the rest of the fall for a little while will feel like summer again. But it's after your first killing frost. So then if you can actually just cover your plants and save them through that first frost, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks extra out of your garden. So it's a lot of color.
And you're right, you put so much work into it, you want to get some bang for your buck.
Yeah, you do. And so why not? Why look at all this dead stuff in your yard when you can still have color right through the nice time of the fall? So a good way of doing that is to actually create little mini greenhouses in your backyard. So you might go by people's houses and you'll see they actually use something like this, a sheet. Now, sheets are good because at least it's protection, but I don't like sheets to cover my plants because you can see this is kind of heavy if you feel the material. And
especially when it gets wet.
Yes, if you have dew from the next morning, that it'll start absorbing that, and then it'll really start laying the plants down, and then you'll have broken plants. So this is not the best way. It doesn't really hold in the heat that well either. Usually I'll go to one of the hardware stores and just get a thin plastic. This is a 4 mil. You can even go thinner. And then you just put that over your gardens. And then when you do that in the evening after the sun sets and you know it's going to be a frost, just cover your gardens with this. Make sure it goes all the way to the ground. Create a little tent. So then you're going to leave that overnight. If it gets really cold under there, what you can do is add one of these painter's lights. Now, why I'm adding this is to add heat. This is actually a fluorescent bulb. You wouldn't want that. You'd want an incandescent bulb.
Because fluorescent bulbs don't add heat, they just add light.
Yes, they do. They only add light, basically a little bit of heat, but an incandescent bulb will actually have 75% more heat to it.
And for those of us who don't know what an incandescent bulb is, that's the old-fashioned bulbs, the one
with a little
like
filament.
bulbs. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just a round bulb. So make sure you use one of those in there, and that really will up the temperature in there overnight and really help your tender plants. Now, also, if you're worried about some things like for the weight of the plastic, or if it's going to get too heavy and it's going to pull down the plant, you can just put sticks. It can either be like these bamboo ones you buy or ones from the garden center. Now, this is a potted plant, so I would put this in the garage for that type of thing and then bring it out in the morning. But if you put sticks like this, it'll hold the plastic above the plant. You'll have no problem.
It's like making your own little tent.
It's a little tent, exactly. So then in the next morning before you go to work, say it's 7 o'clock in the morning, even if there's still frost on the ground, now you can pull back all the plastic because you don't want it to sit there over the daytime, because what's going to happen is it's going to actually still act like a greenhouse and now start frying your plants.
Oh, and you don't want that.
No, and you also want air circulation around your plants too. So when you pull back the plastic, you'll be good for the rest of the day.
So to recap then, what we're going to do is we want ideally plastic. Sheets are good but not great. And at nighttime, to avoid the frost, we want to make almost a tent over our plants so that it takes in the sunlight, keeps in the warmth, and overnight when those temperatures get cool, it'll stay warm inside. Yeah,
it'll stay warm. And then if some people that say they don't like the idea of plastic because it's non-biodegradable, you'll be able to use this for years and years and years. I have plastic at home that I just use for covering my plants. I've had for over 10 years.
So it's one of those times that maybe plastic's for the best.
Yeah, because you're just going to recycle it year after year.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you here on our show. And for all our segments with the Master Gardeners and for more gardening tips, you can click on Design Appeal when you visit mymassappeal.com.